to start in a seated position. That can be however you enjoy sitting. It can be legs extended out in front of you. You can bring the legs into a cross-legged position. I find sitting like this quite uncomfortable for my hips and my knees after a little while, so I tend to elevate myself and sit on a block or a cushion or a book. It just allows gravity to work a bit nicer with the knees, so I don't feel as much pressure, but entirely up to you. Find a way that feels comfortable for you to sit for a minute. Okay, so we're going to bring the hands onto the knees or onto the thighs, wherever the body finds that they naturally fall. Don't worry too much about it for now. Okay. Take a deep breath in and try and imagine lifting up through the crown of the head. So instead of rounding into the low back, try and engage the abdominals just a little bit and start to lift up through the crown of the head, stacking the vertebrae. Good. And then try and close the eyes, or at the very least, lower the gaze down towards the floor so that you're keeping your senses inwards. So in yoga, we call this pratyahara. It's one of the 8 limbs of Ashtanga yoga. I will email it out to you guys later on if you're interested to read about it. But it's basically the withdrawal of the senses. So it's the opportunity before we meditate normally to bring ourselves in and just become aware of our body and remind ourselves how connected we are to it. So we're going to start with a simple body scan. Taking a moment to notice your toes. Take a moment to notice the balls of your feet, your inner arch and the outer arch of the foot. Take a moment to notice the outside of the ankles and perhaps notice if they're in contact with the ground. Start to notice the shin and the knees. And then start to notice the thighs, the quads, the creases of the hip. And just take a moment to notice any discomfort or sensations either in the knee joint or in the hips. Starting to stack the vertebrae one on top of the other, try and sit up a little bit taller. And then pull the shoulders down away from the ears. Start to draw the shoulder blades together, open the front of the chest. Start to notice the biceps at the front of the arms, the inside of the elbow, the forearm, the wrist, and the hands. And then trace your way up the back. Start to notice the elbows, the back of the triceps, the shoulder blades. Tracing your way up your neck, notice the weight of your head and notice whether your chin has started to pull forward and see if you can encourage the chin to gently tuck back. Start to notice the breath without trying to force it or change it. Allow it to be autonomic, where it happens automatically in the body. It's one of the few autonomic body processes that we can actually adapt and change and manipulate. Start to notice whether you're breathing into your chest or whether you can start to expand into the belly. Start to breathe a little bit deeper, starting to expand the belly as you breathe in, lift the chest, lift the collarbones, and as you exhale, draw the chest down, draw the belly back towards the spine. Inhale, fill the belly, fill the chest, lift the collarbones. Exhale, chest, empty belly. One more deep breath cycle. Okay. You're going to blink your eyes open. And then when you feel ready, you're going to find your way into a tabletop. There's no rush to do this. If the knees and the ankles cooperate, you're very welcome to simply roll yourself over and find your way there. If your ankles and knees don't cooperate, you're just going to roll yourself around, bring the legs to the side and find your way into a tabletop position on the mat. Okay, so the first thing we're going to warm up is our wrists. You'll find in most yoga classes that we don't, as teachers, allocate a huge amount of time to warming up the wrists, and then we expect you to spend close to an hour on them. So I would always suggest warm them up before you come to a class so that you know that they're going to be safe. Okay, starting in a tabletop position. First things first, you want to make sure the wrists are in line. So if you've got stuff on your wrists, move it up. Just take a moment and look at the crease line across the front of your wrist. And make sure it lines up with the line at the top of your mat. So you want those two lines tracking together. Spread the fingers as wide apart as you can. And then you're going to create a bit of a tent underneath the fingers. So from here, you're going to pull the fingers back towards you. So you create space underneath the middle knuckle of the fingers. And you dome underneath the hand. So this part of the hand isn't against the ground. The main body of the knuckles are. So this part is, and the fingertips are. So you're trying to draw the energy towards you. So you really tent the fingers in. Imagine you're trying to pull the mat towards the palm of the hand and feel a bit of a lift through the arms energetically or muscularly. Okay. From here, what I'd like you to do is keeping the main knuckle down, try and lift up the end of the thumb. And then exhale, lower the thumb back down. Inhale, lift up the end of the first finger, keep the knuckle down. Exhale, lower it down. Inhale, raise up the middle finger. Exhale, lower the middle finger down. Inhale, lift up the ring finger. Notice if you need to lean back to pick up the fingers, by the way. Drop the ring finger down. Inhale, pick up the little finger. You need to stop leaning back. Drop the little finger down. Swap, go back again. So pick up the little finger, knuckle down. Good. Pick up the ring finger, don't lean back. And down. Pick up the middle finger. And down. Pick up the first finger. And down. And then pick up the thumb. And down. Okay, so the next exercise that we're going to do is we're going to rise up onto the fingertips. So we're going to start to lift the heels of the hands for a count of 4, 3, 2, 1. Keep the fingers down as best you can. Yeah, I'm hypermobile, so for me this is easy. For some people, this is where we get to. And then we're going to lower back down for a count of 4, 3, slower in, 2, and 1. Here the hands comes back down and back up for 4, 3, 2, 1, and lower down for 4, 3, 2, 1. One more time, go back up for 4, 3, 2, 1. Lower the hands back down for 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. Come off the hands for a second, shake them out. You should start to feel that working into the forearms. So by waking off all the muscles in the forearms, we've got 7 of them. It'll help the wrists. So I'd like you to bring the hands back down in front of you. And we're just going to move through a circle. So we're just going to get a little bit of mobility into the wrists. Moving in a full circle in one direction. And then moving in a full circle in the other way. One thing I will stress is that you'll come to classes and they'll tell you to turn the wrists around and lean yourself back. I would always advocate not to do that at the start of a class. We want to get mobility, and I use that word strongly. We want to get mobilizing our range of motion. We don't want to create extra motion in the wrists because we're then going to ask them to take our entire body weight for almost an hour. You don't want to destabilize the joint. So you just want to get a little bit of mobility into it. You don't want to stretch the wrists before you start working on them. Okay, so coming to sit. I'm going to ask you to tuck your toes underneath. We're going to sit back onto our toes. If this is too intense, which it likely is, we're going to bring a block and you can choose to create a bit of a fortress and a bit of a table and sit yourself on that. You can use a cushion too if you've got cushions instead. It's far more comfortable to try and sit on. You can bring the block across the top of the heels and sit on that instead. You might be fine and you can sit here. Entirely up to you, but you want the toes tucked underneath. And the sensation with this will start to build. If you're sat here and you're feeling absolutely nothing, firstly, check in that all of the toes are in contact, that you've not rolled onto the big toe and the little toe is now exposed. Keep all the toes down. If you're still comfy, start to walk the knees further forward, but we're going to be here for a couple of minutes. The reason we do this at the start, we have a myofascial line that runs from the base of the big toe all the way up the back of the foot, back of the legs, glutes, all the way up the back and finishes between the forehead. We do a lot of forward folds in yoga, even just in the basic sun salutations. So actually, by just stretching the fascia on the feet, we release tension along the whole of that back line. Makes it a bit more comfortable. You will feel like your toes are breaking. I'm going to keep talking to try and distract you so you don't focus on feeling like your toes are breaking off. Okay, bring the hands out in front of you. We're going to pulse the hands, bring them up overhead as fast as you can, and then bring the arms out by your side if you've got space, or bring them back in front of you if you haven't. Bring the arms back up overhead. Really pulse the hands as fast as you can and bring them back down. Again, you'll start to feel this in the forearms. Keep the hands going, bring them back up. Probably not thinking about your toes anymore, bring them back down. Hopefully starting to feel this in the forearms. Bring the arms back up. Bring the arms down. Notice which hand is starting to slow down or whether it's a specific finger. Bring the arms up. Last time, bring the hands down in front of you. Good. Bring the hands in front. You're going to shift the weight off the toes. I promise they're not broken. Come onto the top of the feet and just gently pat out the top of the feet. Tap out the toes. Okay. So I would suggest before any class that you attend virtually or in person, spend a few minutes doing that. Just mobilize the wrists, build some strength in the forearms and tuck the toes. It will just help loosen and kind of prepare the body for what you're about to put it through. So this evening, we're going to work on basic sun salutations, which include standing, folding forward, lifting halfway, stepping the feet back to a high plank, lowering down into a chaturanga, pushing back to a downward dog. It's a sequence of postures, and we're just going to keep it basic tonight and just re-go over those basic postures because we all get lazy, myself included. So we'll start with the hardest bit, chaturanga, everyone's favorite. So there are ways of doing this. Firstly, I'd like you to bring whatever two things you have got in front of you.
He just disappeared. Has she gone for props? Barter, has she gone for props? Just put a thumbs up.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So these guys have done this one before. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring the middle finger to the back of whatever it is you've got. Walk the knees back a little way. You're going to shift the weight forward, and I ask you to lower the shoulders down onto whatever it is that you've got. If they're too low, you might need to compromise and put a cushion or something on top. You're aiming for about 90 degrees. And then push yourself back up. So if it's too low, you can always turn, blocks and books. Stand up. Or put something else on top of them to make it about a 90-degree height. And you're welcome to use your cameras. If you want to turn yourself side onto your camera so that you can use it to look at your anatomy, by all means do that. It does help. So bring yourself forward again. Lower elbows hug in, shoulders come down, and then push up. Gents especially, start to notice what happens with the hands when you lower. For most guys, the thumb and the first finger knuckles start to lift off the mat because you've got more strength here. So you tend to roll out and make use of the back muscles, whereas females, we roll in on the thumbs and the little fingers start to rise up. So just be mindful of what's happening in the hands as you lower. And push back up. We're going to do 2 more of those. Shift the weight forward. Lower down. Push back up. Notice the knuckles. Good. Last one. Shifting forward. Lowering the body down. Pushing all the way back up. Good. And come to sit back. Okay. So chaturanga is a transitionary posture. There's different ways of doing it. We're going to try another way of finding that angle that might work for some people better than using blocks does. So in an ideal world, a chaturanga, you can do it with the knees down. You're going to shift the weight so the shoulders come just over the wrists. You're thinking about wrapping the elbows inwards. So that crease line comes in. So the elbow is tracking out. Fingers are actively pulling in. And you lower. Everyone says to bring the elbows in against the ribs. That internally rotates here, and you actually risk impinging on the AC joint. Loads of yogis end up with problems here along this joint. So I would suggest don't bring the elbows in against the body, just track them towards the back of the mat, keep some space. So bring yourself forward, elbows go towards the back of the mat. If you can, you're going to hover just above the ground, and then allow yourself to collapse down. Good, and we're just going to work on that a few times. So pushing yourself back, bringing yourself forward, fingers engaged, pull in towards the palm of the hand, wrap the elbows out, and then draw them towards the back of the mat, allow some space. Good, and then push back. I'm going to watch you guys do it. Go through it one more time for me in your own time. Shift the weight forward. Nice, Nita. Good, and then coming up. Yeah, I'd say walk your hands a tiny bit wider. Yep, wider. That's it. Lisa, I can't see your hands. How are they feeling? She's like, kind of okay. Good, Anita. Let's have a look, Marta. Good, nice doming of the upper back. Good, yeah, perfect. Nice, Mark. Squeeze the elbows in a little bit closer towards the body. That's it. There we go. Triceps. Good, perfect. Okay. So the next trick we're going to try that can help people work out whether they're allowing the lower, they tend to collapse. And this starts to happen. The pecs start to spread across because we go too low. So you'll see people, they'll come here and they'll go, and they'll pull the shoulders back and they allow the chest to come forward and they kind of drop through the chest. What we're aiming for is to come down all in line, hold, and then come down. So at no point is the chest kind of leading the movement forward. The whole body is in, we're pushing and creating this upper back doming. So we're keeping the pec muscles through this motion. So a way to find out if you're collapsing into the chest is to take hold of dressing down robe or scarf or strap or whatever you have and just tie it into a circle. You want it so that when you bring it around, we're going to bring it just above the elbows and check in and just make sure it's okay. And you want the elbows to be able to go alongside the body and then tie a knot so that it doesn't going to come loose. I have a strap, but I'm all up for improving with you guys because it's yeah. Let's have a look at everyone. Lisa, that looks a bit too loose. Is that too loose? Can you bring your arms wider than about shoulder height? Yeah, you want to tighten it up so your arms are locked at about shoulder width. Mark, let's have a look. Bring it down just above your elbows. Not so high. You want it just above your elbows, Mark. That's it. Too loose, tighten up. How are we doing? Anita's all good. How's the clam? Marta, that's too wide pocket. Tighten up. Ian, all good. Oh, Ian's got a strap. Showing us all up. Cool. Anita's getting already. Right. So this time what I'd like you to do, you're going to shift yourself forward. You're going to lower down. And the strap is going to catch you, and you can rest on the strap. You can't go anywhere. And it feels really weird. Yeah, no one likes it. And then push back up. Okay, so do you notice as you lower down that the chest wants to create this shape? And we want the chest and the lower back to kind of let loose because it feels more comfortable. Instead, what I want you to do is draw the belly in. So you create some tension through the belly. And then think about doming into the upper back slightly. So push through the hands, fingers pull in. Dome into the upper back. So you're really engaging through the upper back. Shift the weight forward. And then this time, pull the hands apart before you start lowering down. So you're starting to really engage the upper back. Lower, so you tap onto the strap, push up and back. Good. Okay, so we're going to do 3 more of those. Shift the weight forward. Set yourself up, hands pulled in, and then pull the arms apart so you really feel the upper back doming, lowering down, holding, push up. Nice, 2 more. Inhale, shift forward, set yourself up, pull the hands apart. And back up. One more time. Triceps are definitely going to feel this tomorrow morning, sorry. Lower down. Good. Push up and back. Okay, you can get rid of your torture device. It's just so you understand what's going on in the body and get a bit of a sensation feel for it. Trying to do a vinyasa with that on is nigh on impossible. Okay, so to move through a chaturanga in a class, if you were to go through a chaturanga in a class, option 1 would be to do what we've been doing. So knees are completely down. We're diving into the upper back, hands pull apart, elbows go to the back, hover, come down. If you have your knees on the floor, you are then only taking low cobra. There is no up dog. Because to do that, I'm dumping into my low back because I haven't developed any strength through my legs as I've come down. So it's not safe for the back. So instead, if you've got the knees down, you're just pulling the hands towards you, coming into a low cobra, pushing through the top of the feet so the legs engage, kneecaps lift. Option 2, pick up the feet, cross the ankles behind you. So you start to build a little bit more weight into this. Weight goes forward, dome into the upper back, lowering down, holding flat, feet release, push to the top of the feet, low cobra, come down. Option 3, and I know Anita, you were working on this before with me, was obviously because you can't put the load through the knees. So option 3, if you're feeling up to it, is you're finding a high plank. Again, hands pull apart. You're lowering the body down, you're hovering, and then you come onto the top of the feet. If you cannot hold this and do that, you're not ready for it. You need to be able to hold it and control it. And then it's an upward dog, which is a different position because here I've got my legs off the ground. They're not in contact with the mat. It's only the top of my feet that are now touching the mat. So take a second and just see where you're at in terms of what works for you in terms of building strength. It might be knees down, feet down. It might be knees down, feet up. It might be a full chaturanga. It's completely up to you. Take what fits the body, but make sure we're keeping those basics. Hands pull apart, fingers pull in. Take 1 just so I can have a bit of a look and then I can give you some feedback. Good, top of feet really push down here and keep your hips and your knees off. Nice, Mark. Push with the top of the feet so you're trying to get the knees and the legs off the mat. There we go, good. Nice, Lisa. As you come up, can you pull the hands back towards you? It will just help you fire some of the muscles around the back. Nice, chaturanga is perfect. Pull the hands back, pull the hands back. Yes, there we go, good. Marta, watch those elbows. Marta, elbows. There you go. Okay. So, once you find your version of chaturanga, upward dog, or low cobra, we have to question what we're doing anatomically. So all we are doing is we're taking basically a push-up. We're waking up the back muscles by pulling the hands apart. That's all we're doing. We're finding strength through the triceps and the back, ready for downward dog. It's just a preparation movement to reset us for downward dog. So when you see people in a class say, take a vinyasa, and you're like, what? All a vinyasa is between postures. We hold, we create strength ready for downward dog. We take a gentle back bend to neutralize the spine. And then we push back and we find length in the spine in a downward dog shape. To do the same thing without needing to put all the extra weight through, especially between sides, it gets tiring, is to simply come into your tabletop. Pull the hands apart. You've got exactly the same engagement. You know, if I pull my hands apart, I can see things starting to fire in my back. You're working the same muscles simply by pushing the ground away and pulling the hands apart. You hold that for long enough, and I promise you, you will start to build up quite a lot of upper body strength. It's hard to hold. And then we take the backward, the back bend. So all we're doing there is we're just lifting the gaze. And then we round back. That is a vinyasa. In terms of what the purpose of a vinyasa is, that is a vinyasa. You're building strength by putting your hands apart. So you're waking up the upper back, you're engaging the triceps, and then you just reset the spine with a nice back bend, gentle forward bend, and then you push back and find downward dog. If repetitive downward dogs at the start of your practice feel exhausting, tiresome, or you find that you're in a downward dog here, and someone's like, step your foot forward, and your foot kind of comes to that here, that's where I started. My foot was like here, and I'm like, okay, walk my hands back, high lunge. Well, I'm not really in a high lunge, and then I'm trying to get my foot out, and by that point, they've moved on to a warrior two and a back bend. It's a really horrible experience. It's one that actually put me off going to classes for a really long time when I started. I just couldn't work out how to get my foot further forward. All I will say, patience. It comes with time. I absolutely promise you it comes with time. In the meantime, if we're resetting here, we've taken our back bend, we've taken our forward fold, walk the hands back, bring yourself up, rib cage in, arms go up. I'm still finding the same length in my spine that I would in a downward dog. And then I step forward from here. And now I'm ready to go into the same shape that everyone else is in without needing to catch up or put load through my hands that they're not ready for, because it's a different posture to anything we do in our day-to-day. So we're going to try that instead. We're going to take a vinyasa. So I would like you to take a vinyasa in a tabletop, please. Good. So making sure hips are stacked over knees, hands are underneath the shoulders. Draw the abdominals in, so find some engagement through the core. Push down with the hands, and then imagine pulling the hands apart as hard as you can. Good. And then take an inhale. Try and keep pulling the hands apart. Start to lift the gaze, tilt the pelvis up. Pull the hands apart for dear life. Good. And then push down with the hands. Keep pulling them apart. Round back. Good. Come to find a neutral position. Keep pulling those hands apart. And then walk the hands back. And reach the arms up. Abdominals draw in, so we're making sure that we're nice and strong. Really pull the hands high. And then shift the weight onto the left knee and step the right foot forward. Okay. So if you find yourself in a class and the teacher's like, take a vinyasa, and you're tired or your wrists hurt or anything else hurts, this is an alternative go-to. From here, you can tuck the back knee and find a high lunge. It made it far more accessible for me to do that, or when I've hurt my hands and I physically can't put weight through my wrists, to do that than it is to constantly be doing downward dogs. So that's an option for you. I have arthritis in both my hands, so in a vinyasa practice, I physically can't load every time through my hands. So I take that option quite a lot when I'm doing a stronger class. So don't think it's only for beginners. It's just a different way of approaching the same anatomical postures. Which brings us to downward dog. I'm going to be yabbering for a few minutes. If you want to sit in a much more comfortable position than on your knees, by all means do so. Okay. Downward dog is one that takes quite a bit of work. Anita, obviously, we did almost a full hour on the downward dog one night, and we just went over and over and over downward dogs. The biggest thing I can say is keep the hands safe. So keep trying to pull the fingers in towards the palm of the hand at all times. These tiny bones here, we've got 8 of them, 7 normal bones, 1 sesame bone in the side of the hand, are not designed to carry our full body weight. They're just not. Anatomically, it doesn't make any sense. So by pulling the hands in and engaging all of these muscles, we help stabilize that joint and take some of the load off the hands. So finding a downward dog shape, we typically see this. I see this all the time. The upper back is like this, and my legs, and people are trying to straighten their legs out. And it's kind of like a very odd plank. You always want to think belly to thighs. So my knees are going to bend, and my belly is coming back towards my thighs. And now I'm finding length in the spine from fingers all the way up towards my hips, which is what I actually want in a downward dog. And then, yeah, if I've got some flexibility, I might start to drop the heels, but I'm keeping my hips up. I'm not dropping the heels and shifting my weight forward again. So it's a different posture to move into and out of. So for now, try that. Keep it simple. For now, just try that one for me. So setting up the hands, finding your way into a tabletop, pulling the fingertips in towards the palm of the hand, pull the hands apart so you wake up the upper back. Micro bend the elbows, tuck the knees, and start to lift the hips up and think belly to thighs, knees really bent. Good. And then maybe start to soften the heels towards the ground a little bit. Notice if the weight starts to shift. Good. And then gently bend the knees and come back down. Okay. So that's the premise for a downward dog, that V shape. The purpose of a downward dog is to find length in the spine. Hamstrings are secondary, so we're working on actually creating traction. So the whole purpose of yoga, in fact, was to set people up to meditate. So they took a series of forward folds and back bends to warm up and wake up the spine. They did planks to develop core strength so that they could sit. That was it. That was the whole purpose of asana, was to prepare people to sit. And then we've turned it into this kind of pony show of very exciting postures, which is great fun. But the anatomic reasons for it are very basic. It was just to wake up the spine through a range of motion. And downward dog was to create traction on the spine, ready for when you then sit and put all the pressure of the body through the spine. That was the whole reason for a downward dog. So hamstrings are absolutely secondary, if relevant at all, for a downward dog. So we've started with the basic shape. Coming back into the hands, this time what I'd like you to think about, I'm hoping you can see my back. Okay. So again, we're grounding down through the hands. So it's an internal and external rotation of the shoulders. It takes a while to get used to. To begin with, we're pushing the ground away for dear life, and our shoulders come up by our ears and we're here. And we tend to lock out the elbows, females especially. Instead, we're going to pull the fingertips in, start with the hands. Make sure the thumb knuckle is down. Micro bend the elbows a little bit. And imagine that you're rolling this part of the arm inwards. So you'll notice that my elbows now point outwards a little bit. That rolls my shoulders in, and now I have to use my back that we've warmed up through a chaturanga to pull my shoulders away from my ears. So instead of being here, I'm here. So I've got more space between my ears and my shoulders. Does that kind of make sense in terms of wrapping in and out? If it doesn't, turn your mic on and tell me, and I can find another way of trying to cue it. No? Okay. When you're ready, try it again, keeping your shoulders facing towards me so I can just have a bit of a check out. But drawing fingertips in towards the hand first, grounding all of the knuckles, and then pushing back into that downward dog shape.
Good. Push the ground away. And to begin with, let the shoulders come to the ears so you really understand it. Good. And then roll the forearms inwards. Yeah, Mark, other way, that's it. And then roll the shoulders out. Yes, Mark, perfect. And then release the head. Nice, Lisa. Can you roll your left shoulder out a little bit more? Yes, there we go. Now we're neutral, and you probably feel completely wonky. Good. Ian, push the ground away a little bit harder with the left arm. Yes, there we go. And then roll the shoulder out. Good. Cool. Come back down. You guys are easy to cue. You're pretty anatomically aware, which is great. Sometimes you get people and you're like, roll your shoulders out, and they just keep kind of coming in towards the armpits. Okay. Next part of the downward dog, almost the last part of the downward dog. 2 more parts. Is the rib cage. You'll hear me harp on about it 100 times in any given class, and I'm not going to apologize for it. It's something I have learned, and it's something some of my friends learned the hard way by actually developing disc herniations through an over practice of yoga and not protecting themselves. Good way to practice it is to do dead bugs, if anyone's familiar with it, lying on your back and doing opposite arm and legs to the ground. So with the ribs, we tend to, excuse the nudity, but we tend to flare them out. So the ribs go wide in quite a lot of positions, and we can keep the lower abs engaged and still have a wide rib cage. This leaves the mid back completely exposed. So this is safe, low back is safe. Chest is typically safe, upper back is safe. The mid back is completely exposed because we keep the ribs loose. So what I want you to think about is trying to draw the rib cage in. By doing that, you'll gently tuck the pelvis. We're not scooping the pelvis underneath to put the lower back on the floor. That's not a position that anatomically you're then going to use in your actual functional life. So for me, it's an irrelevant cue because I don't want you to tuck your lower back to the floor because you develop a flat back, which, yeah. So instead, think about while you're sitting there, just trying to draw the rib cage in and down. And you will feel the pelvis slightly adjust anyway to compensate for that movement. It's a weird position to start to think about because you start to notice when you're walking perhaps that your ribs open up and you kind of stand with this slight lordotic curve and the bum goes back, and certainly, yeah, I know in a lot of society it's kind of a favoured position to stick your ass out, but it's not helpful. So we're going to think about that when we come back into our downward dog. So we've worked out the upper bit, so the fingers are pulling in, the elbow points out, the crease points in. I roll my shoulders out away from the ears, and then I do this with my lower back. And instead, what I want you to do is draw the rib cage in, so we create a flatter back. So I've still got a natural curve. You'll still see a wave along my spine because I'm not going to get rid of that. But by drawing in the rib cage, I'm protecting the mid back. Okay, whenever you're ready. This is like into boot camp. Okay, push yourselves back. Good. So Mark, wrap the shoulders out, away from the ears. Yes, that's it, that's it, that's it. Perfect. Nice, Lisa. Ian, roll the shoulders out, out, out. Use your lats. Other way. Yes. Yeah, there you go. Now draw the ribcage in. Yes. Good. Nice, Lisa. And then drop yourselves down. So for me as a teacher, it's really easy to see because your clothing actually moves on your spine. So I can see when you draw your ribcage in, all the creases disappear across the t-shirt or whatever you're wearing because you're starting to dome slightly into the upper back, which means I know that it's now safe. Last thing, if you ever feel like challenging yourself, do a downward dog on a blanket on a hard wood floor. In a downward dog, everyone pushes everything away, right? We push the feet away and we push the hands away for dear life, and people complain because their yoga mats are too slippery and they can't keep their balance in downward dog and they're chasing their hands up the mat. In an ideal world, your hands will pull towards your feet and your feet will pull towards your hands. So energetically in yoga, we're constantly thinking about prana, flow of energy. It dissipates out of our hands and it dissipates out of our feet. So we tend to push away with the ground and we push the floor away and we find our hands doing this along the mat until we end up on our head and then we kind of walk our hands back and we find our way back again. Instead, from here, you want to think about pulling your hands in and your legs in towards your hands, and your abdominals immediately fire as soon as you're upper back. In fact, everything for me starts shaking within about 2 breaths. But if you're not sure if you're doing it right, get yourself on a blanket and it will soon tell you. The blanket will just stretch far, far away. So last tip, try it for me. And then I'll get off downward dog. Good, rib cage in, and then imagine pulling the feet towards the hands and the hands back towards the feet. This should make it a lot harder. When you've had enough, drop onto your knees. Good. Good. Okay, dropping yourself down. Nice. Honestly, you guys, I couldn't actually find fault in any of those downward dogs, so it's big old thumbs up from me. Okay, so we'll do a sun salutation from standing and we'll just see how we feel as we go through it. Find your way to a standing position on your mat. Bring yourself right to the front. Okay, so Surya Namaskar A, sun salutation A, most basic sun sal. Feet can be underneath the hips, would be perfect for me. Teachers say to bring top toes together. There's nothing wrong with that. For me, it puts me in internal rotation because of the way that my hips are wider than my feet. Doesn't feel very nice. You choose where your feet want to be underneath you. And then pull the toes in towards you. So same principle as the feet. You're finding activation through the arches of the feet, and that energy will start to pull up through the legs. Rib cage draws in. Inhale, reach the arms up overhead. Keep the lower ribs in. Good. As you exhale, bend the knees. Hips go back. Body folds all the way down over the legs. Raise the head. Good. Inhale, bring the hands halfway up the shins. Straighten the legs. And then lift the crown of the head forward. So you're not lifting the gaze forward. You're lifting the crown of the head forward. Find a long spine. Good. All of you turn sideways onto your cameras. And then use your camera and see if you've got a long spine. Thanks, Lisa. Good, Mark. So you want to push your hips back and up. Yes, there you go. Good. Body. Yeah, good. Okay. Fold the body all the way down. And then step the feet back to a high plank. Now take a vinyasa that works for you. That can be chaturanga, knees down, ankles down. Whatever works for you, take what fits you, and I will meet you in downward facing dog. Moving really slowly and mindfully. Good. So as we lift, we pull the hands back. Nice, Ian. Good. And then find your way back to a downward dog. Coming back to a tabletop or pushing straight up and back. Nice. Good. Wrap the shoulders out. Rib cage in. Yes. You guys. Okay. Take one more deep breath cycle here. We normally take 5. Shift the gaze forward. You're going to start to walk the feet forward towards the hands. And again, I used to get to like here and then couldn't go any further, and I'd walk my hands back to my feet. And that is absolutely fine. Your feet don't need to find your hands. They need to walk forward so you start to build core strength. That's it. Bring the hands to the feet. Bring the hands halfway up the shins. Press the hips back. Crown of the head goes forward. Find length. Exhale. Bend the knees belly to thighs. Relax the head. Inhale. Sweep. Core engaged. Reach the arms all the way up. Straighten the legs. Come up to standing. Exhale, release the hand down. Nice. That is a sun salutation. So that is a tip from start to finish. We're going to do it again, and this time I'm just going to cue the breath. I'm not going to demonstrate the postures. I will tell you what we're doing, but I'm not going to demo them so I can pay a bit more attention to you. Okay, so finding your way to the top of your mat, whichever way you are facing in. Nope, are we on the move? No, okay. As you inhale, sweep and reach the arms overhead. Exhale, soften the knees, fold the body forward. Inhale, lift halfway, flatten the spine. Exhale, plant the hands, step both feet to high plank. Take a deep breath in high plank. As you exhale, take your version of chaturanga. Good. Inhale, low cobra, upward dog or cat cow. Exhale, tuck the toes, find downward facing dog. Rib cage draws in. Nice. Shoulders wrap out. Take a deep breath in and a long exhale out. Take one more deep breath in. As you exhale, bend the knees and start to walk the feet forward as far as they'll go towards the front of the mat. Good. Bring the hands back to meet the shins. Inhale, lift halfway, find length, straighten the legs. Exhale, bend the knees, fold the body down. And then inhale, sweep and reach the arms up overhead. Come all the way back up to standing. Good. Exhale, release the hands down by your side.
Good. I'm not going to cue the poses. Let's see if you know it. I'm just going to cue the breath. Inhale. You can do it. Good. Inhale. Yep. Exhale. It's one breath, one movement. Good. Inhale. Exhale. Hold for an inhale, giving you a clue. Exhale. Take your variation. Inhale. Back bend. Exhale. Good. 7 breaths, 7 postures. Wrap the shoulders out a bit, Ian. Bend the knees, push the hips back and up. You've straightened the legs a bit too much. There you go. Good. Mark, push the ground a little bit harder with the right hand for me. Yes, there we go. Good. Take one more deep breath in. Take a long exhale out. Take another deep breath in. Slowly start to walk the feet forward. Good. And then inhale. You know what to do. Good. Exhale. Inhale. Sweep and reach the arms all the way up. And exhale, raise the hands down by your side. Good. I'm impressed. I'm genuinely impressed. So it's a mental challenge. So basically, when you do silent retreats, Ian, you might have done this on yours, certainly on most of them, they encourage you to just do sun salutations for about 5 minutes before you sit in the morning. It just prepares the body to sit. And traditionally, that's all that was done. That's what Hatha is. Hatha is sun salutations. And then from here, after they've warmed the body up, they would set. And they do these, and then they step back. Hatha is really traditional. It comes back to the basic postures and why we did them to meditate. And then Vinyasa kind of made it more fun, and they linked up all of these sequences to create the basic postures into more fun ways of transitioning through them. If you haven't done Hatha yet, highly recommend it with Kim on a Wednesday. Ian and Lisa, she's in Morzine. She's now in Austria, but she is from Morzine, so you might have done one with her in person before. Okay, find your way down to a seated position. I'm not going to make you do any more of that, but I will test you on it next week. Okay. Bring the legs down in front of you. We're just going to stretch the body out a little bit. Okay, so same principle goes. When we do forward folds, there's lots of reasons that it can go completely awry. So for a lot of people, forward folds, is that straight?
Yeah, okay. A lot of people, forward folds look like this. And actually it becomes a core exercise to just try and sit up, let alone lean forward. So the opposite end of the scale is where you walk the hips back and you can come all the way down here and I don't feel anything in my legs. Nothing, zilch, nada. And everyone thinks it's great because you're really flexible. It's not great. Lots of disadvantages of it. I don't use my core to fold forward. Forward folds are a core exercise. If I see someone in my class who's just like, having a great time, they have to come out of it, bring their arms up, use their core and pull forward and use what this is meant to do, which is to support us to move our body forward in the same way that this helps us take a back bend. It's abdominal work, it's muscular. There shouldn't just be a case of relaxing into joints. So if you are in the first world where your pelvis naturally goes the other way, and we're sitting here, a way to create some space to allow the low back to relax without feeling stressed and therefore tightening more is to sit on a block or a book. And again, that's where I started. So don't believe that I came into this. In fact, you don't know I didn't come into this like that. I couldn't touch my knees when I started. Trying to fold forward to here for me was a real intense exercise because my low back was super tight because of my posture. It takes work, but the more we try and pull ourselves into these shapes, the more the muscles and the fascia in the back go, nope, I'm going to support you, I don't know what you're doing. And it goes more into spasm, it actually thickens the fascia and you're less likely to ever reach your toes. So we sit on the block and instead we waddle the hips back. So we start to try and lean the body forward anyway. And then you want to imagine that you're tipping slightly forward off the block. And it's okay if the back of the block starts to lift as you start to shift the weight forward a little bit, that's okay. Or book or whatever you're sat on. Disadvantage, you've got loads of space underneath your knees and the tendency when we say pull the toes back is to do this and lock out in that space. If you can mind body it, you want to pull your toes towards you and micro bend the knees so you create even more space under them and you engage the quads. Body works in pairs. If one muscle is engaged, the other one relaxes. Bring the fingers behind you. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, engage the abdominals with everything you have. Use the fingers and lean the whole body forward. Feel the core engage. And then notice if you're trying to turkey neck, everyone does it. Everyone thinks the chin's going to get to the toes first. Pull the chin gently back in. Good. Hopefully starting to feel this through the calves. Really pull the toes towards you. Keep the knees slightly bent. And then if you're not feeling a huge amount, you can bring the hands a little bit closer towards the hips. Same goes. Take a deep breath in. Every inhale, lift up. Every exhale, tilt the body forward. And with time, instead of needing to sit up to take that deep breath in, you can just lift the crown of the head like you do on the halfway lift. You push the hips back, draw the crown of the head forward, push with the fingers. Exhale, think, engage the abs, belly to thighs. That's it, Mark? Yeah. Mark, can you turn the fingers the other way? That's it. Yeah, good. It will prevent the elbows from hyperextending as much. Good. And then slowly bring yourself up. So, yeah, forward folds actually feel quite different, especially when we're doing them properly. In fact, yoga as a whole feels very different when we start to do it properly, as opposed to just flopping into various postures. And it's a really active thing, which is why when it's done slowly and controlled, there's a lot more to it. So we're going to take one more forward fold, and then we're going to take a gentle back bend, and we'll be done with it. You're going to bend one knee. Bring the foot in towards the inner groin. We all have different tendencies in our body. So for example, on my left side, I can sit here and my knee would go through the floor if it was allowed because I have no ligaments to stabilize this hip. That's my other leg. So we're all different. We all have these limitations on one side of the body more than the other, and we just need to work on balancing it. So if you're sat and the knee is comfortably on the ground, you don't need support. If you are hypermobile and you know that your knee is comfortably on the ground and would go through it, you need to support because you don't want to develop more range. If you're also sat here and your knee is halfway up towards your face, you also need to support. So you're going to bring whatever it is you have under the thigh as opposed to being under the knee. So it just takes the pressure off the knee joint. If we bring it under the knee, all it does is support the knee, and we actually want to develop strength around the knee and soften off the ligaments. Same goes, pull the toes towards you, micro bend the knee, fingers go behind. Draw the chest forward, I've been spotted by Buddy, and start to lean it forward, engage the abdominals, same goes. Just take 2 more breath cycles here, noticing the chin. And then inhale, gently come up. And swap sides. The leg goes down, other leg comes up. So if you're in my world, block underneath. Toes of the straight leg pull towards you, and like you did before, micro bend at the back of the knee, so we're not straining ligaments and tendons. Fingers go behind. Invite length through the spine, draw the chest forward, and as you exhale, engage the abdominals, think belly down towards the thighs. Nice, Lisa. Good, Mark. Mark, keep pushing the hips back. If you need to, sit on a block, because your lower back there is quite rounded, so yeah. Yes, there we go, much better. And then gently come up. And straighten the bottom leg down. So it's interesting to note, if you come off your blocking forward folds and you start to feel that you are rounding into the low back again, just sit on a block. Anytime you do a forward fold, if you know that this is your tendency for now, give this a bit of a break, give the low back a bit of a break, sit on a block, allow the spine and the pelvis to neutralize itself and actually hit the back of the legs, which is what these stretches are designed for. And this will gently start to release anyway. Okay, can I come down to lie on your backs? So bend in the knees, make sure you take your whatever you have with you. We're going to run over by about 4 minutes. I hope that's okay with everyone. If it's not, you're always welcome to scarf it. Okay, draw the ribcage in. Notice that gentle tuck of the pelvis, and notice that we're not pressing the low back down into the mat. There should still be a gentle amount of space underneath the lower back. Good. Start to push down with the feet, lift the hips up. Slide the block or book underneath the base of the spine, top of the glutes, and relax yourself down onto it. This should feel quite comfortable once you actually allow the body to relax. If it doesn't, you probably need to jimmy the block and slide it a bit further down towards the feet, towards the top of the buttocks. Okay. From here, bringing the hands down by your side. You can choose to stay here. You can choose to walk the feet a little bit further away, so we invite a little bit more of a sense of length across the top of the hips. You are also very welcome to straighten the legs all the way down and come into a full extended supported bridge. Take the version that works for you. You might want to straighten one leg and then straighten the other, but find your variation and then close down the eyes. Come back to the beginning of practice. Come back to Pratyahara. Taking 2 more full breath cycles, allow the breath to gently slow back down. And then in your own time, there's no rush. If you straighten the legs, start to bend the knees and plant the feet back down. Making sure the rib cage is drawn in, gently push down with the feet, lift the hips just enough to slide the block out from underneath you. Then lower yourself all the way down slowly. Keeping the knees bent, walk the feet mat width distance apart. Keep the feet wide, drop both knees across to the left side. Draw the knees back up to center, and then gently drop them across to the other side. Draw them back up to center. Good. You're going to start to straighten both legs down. And this is something else that you would like to do to finish off your practice. You might want to do a forward fold. I would suggest against it, but it's up to you, it's your body. When you're ready, straighten the legs all the way down to the bottom of the mat. Hands come down by the side. Palms face up. Feet can do whatever the feet want to do and they relax. And draw the hands gently away from the body. And start to notice the body. Start to notice the weight of the back of the legs. Start to notice the weight of the back of the glutes and allow the body to really just rest. Start to notice the spine. Noticing the upper back as it comes into contact with the ground. And then start to notice the back of the shoulders, the backs of the arms. Noticing the back of the hands. Really allow the whole lower and upper body to just relax. Start to notice the neck. And gently draw the chin slightly towards the chest. Invite a deeper sense of length. Start to notice the weight of the back of the head. Take a really deep breath in, and as you exhale, open the mouth side out. Let the whole body feel heavy against the ground. And then take one more of those, taking a really deep breath in. Opening the mouth, sighing the body back out. And just take a moment to rest. Slowly begin to find some movement through the fingers and through the toes. As you inhale, start to reach the arms up overhead and behind you, stretching yourself out from end to end. Pointing the toes, really pull the fingers and toes apart from one another. And then gently start to bend the knees, plant the feet back down. Taking a moment here, when you feel ready, rolling onto your left or your right side, cutting yourself into a ball for a moment. Bringing one hand underneath the head, perhaps to support it. Coming out of this posture is almost as important as the entire time you spend in Shavasana. So instead of rolling onto your back and shoving your way up, I invite you to straighten the top leg and start to push down with the top hand. So you come up from a sideways position. There we go. Gently, gently. Don't roll onto your back.
You can do it. There we go, kids. Cross the legs or find any comfortable seated position. Bringing the hands to wherever they naturally find themselves, on the knees, the thighs, or on the seat of the lap. Take a really deep breath in. Allow yourself to fill the belly, fill the chest, lift the collarbones high. Open the mouth, exhale, let it all back out. Inhale, fill the belly, fill the chest, lift the collarbones, open the mouth, gently sigh it back out. More time. Fill the belly, fill the chest, lift the collarbones and hold. Taking a tiny bit more air, open the mouth, really force it all back out. And just come to sit with your breath as it naturally moves through the body. Lifting the corners of the mouth for a moment and just noticing how it makes you feel. And then gently extend the arms out in front of you, rub the hands together to generate some heat. Bringing the fingers over the eyes. Blinking the eyes open into the darkness behind the hands. Spread the fingers when you feel ready to let light back in slowly. And then draw the hands down in front of the body. Namaste. Thank you, all of you. I will email you in the next 30 minutes the 8 limbs of Ashtanga for anyone that is curious to know a little bit more about the why. It's fairly basic. It just touches on it. So Sunday nights are, I'm going to unmute you because I feel weird talking to you when you can't talk back to me. How do I do that?